quick video for you today. Just want to cover what's kind of going on in the market. I'm not going to go into any technical details or talk about news too much, but just looking at the macro in the market and kind of looking where things are at. Reminds me of a time where we're at in our portfolio here, which we're going to go back a little bit and take a look at. So we talked a lot about the last month or so. We'll just call it from, let's say, June 25th. It's kind of about where it was. At about 197 or so, whatever. And then sitting here at about 152. So we look at it and say, man, we lost 40 grand on it. What does that mean? Well, it means I don't like losing 40 grand, but we want to figure out the why and what's going on. And so specifically, we're going to look at trends. First of all, it's an upward trend. We went up and then down, and then we recovered up, and then we went down. Obviously, the next movement is not going to be continuing down because that doesn't really follow the pattern. If we follow the pattern kind of from here to here, we have a trend line right there, which means it's going to be moving up. But we all know why is it going down. And really, we look at what's going on and we see kind of two things. Well, I would say one thing or the other thing. So some of the things that people are saying is, some of the values are priced in for some of these stocks that we have. As far as the upside, I just don't think so. We talked before about how the reopening is actually stronger than anybody thought it was going to be. And the thing is, there haven't been any numbers released for the second quarter. I don't know, when does that come out? Like next month or something? Later this month or maybe in early next month or something. I'm not sure. And then obviously Q3 is a big one. So that's one thing that we want to look at and realize that, there's obviously we're looking at a down pattern and, we're trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And what it reminds me of, and we're going to kind of get back to, kind of the earnings reports that are coming out, is we were sitting here in about March 15th, we were at about 171, and we had something very similar happen. So it dropped down to 132, which is honestly about 40 grand. So basically it's the same thing happened from here, right here, to here. And then what happened at that point? Went 131 and got all the way up to 202, right? So, that's a big deal. That's a $70,000. So what happened in this time? So from the period from right here to right here, we had extended lockdowns. People thought, it just took them longer to kind of open up, longer than people thought. And we had some California and New York that were holding back, but the numbers were still going down. And then kind of when it got into April and May is when things started opening up. A lot of states started opening up one after another after another. Then we got to June 15th, which is right here. And that's when California opened up. So I think from here to here is the anticipation, because they announced mid-May that California was going to open up. So that's kind of right in the trench here to here opening up. But we've been open. So you say, why are we going down here? Well, I see a similar pattern that it went down here. And you said, well, what's going on? Well, you basically had the numbers were high and some big states weren't opening up. So there was a question on kind of where things were going to be at. Right now, we look at the Delta variant. And one of the things I noticed when I was watching TV last night, I never watched the local news, but I decided to watch the local news because it was after the All-Star game. And it's just interesting because whenever they talk about the Delta variant, first of all, when you got to understand about news is they're not sitting here saying, how can we be the most unbiased and fair news report that we can? It's really, how can we keep eyeballs on here? And there's nothing that sells ratings more than fear. And so they kept talking about the Delta variant. Oh my gosh, there's in LA County, there's this many more cases. In San Diego County, there's this many more cases. And I'm noticing they're not talking about deaths. They're talking about cases. So as I was continuing to watch, they were saying that the majority of the people, the bulk of the people who are getting new cases of this Delta variant were people in their 20s. Well, if you've watched this video at all since we started, especially kind of earlier in this year going backwards, we talked about the reporting and the fact that if you're in your 20s, you're not going to die from this unless you're 400 pounds, diabetic, hypertension, and you just are living a very unhealthy life, or you got the genetic shaft, basically. But pretty much if you're a normal person in the 20s, you can get it, but you probably don't even going to get symptoms very much, if at all. So anyway, I'm watching this and I notice they're talking about cases, but they're not talking about deaths. So it's really interesting. It's a lot of times, it's not what they're saying, It's what you notice that they're not saying that's really important. So hospitals are not being strained. You're not seeing on the news that hospitals are being strained and people being turned away. And you're not hearing, when was the last time you heard the word ventilator? It hasn't happened whatsoever. And in fact, I want to say in Illinois last week or the week before, they had more COVID deaths. And it was last week or last month, they actually had more vaccine related deaths, people that died from getting the vaccine, than people that died from COVID, which is great news in a sense for the fact that it's like the COVID numbers are down, but obviously it sucks for the people that died because they got a vaccine. So anyway, so we look at this and we see this is kind of the Delta variant. It's like this is the scare tactics of the media pushing these stocks down. And the reason I know that is, and we'll open this up for a moment, the one thing that I noticed earlier was, we talked about in a couple of videos when I was having my little poo-poo party, which I am officially over right now, is we looked at the Dow and the S&P, right? And the Dow, we look at today, and overall today, we went down 4%, right? Up there, okay? But then when we look at the Dow was up a little bit, the NASDAQ was down a little bit, and the S&P was down. And we never follow the NASDAQ. In fact, it's usually the opposite. But when we look at the Dow, so let's take a look at it for today. The Dow kind of was, went down early and then it went up, it flattened. And if we look at today, it flattened and then it went down and went down. So one of the things that I noticed here is that it's this Delta variant thing. So overall, that's what I wanted to look at. So we look at it for the last month and we'll compare the month. So we look at the month here and it's it went up, down, up, and then it's just a staggered drop that we see here that it just annoys the crap out of me. But we look at the month and it doesn't follow that pattern at all. It's going up. And so what I quickly realized, we had talked in certain other videos how, look, my portfolio is not going to match the Dow or the S&P and definitely not NASDAQ. So it's like if the Dow's up, then portfolio's up. No, it doesn't work like that. It used to be that the NASDAQ and our portfolio here were kind of polar opposites. If NASDAQ went up, we might go down, probably would go down. And if NASDAQ was going down, then we were definitely going up. But one of the things I noticed, I was thinking about, is I noticed that this pattern here has nothing in common, well, unless you maybe flip it upside down, which is kind of interesting. If you flip it upside down, it went up, down, up, right? So we look at here, and it's up, down, up. And so one of the things that you look at is it's a cyclical thing. So people are moving, for whatever reason, they're selling the gains they had or selling the stocks they had and moving it into Dow stocks. And I think it's because of the Delta variant. And maybe it's high frequency trading, who knows? But it's just an inverse pattern that I had noticed right there that people are doing. So what happens when the Delta variant goes away? Well, then you're going to combine earnings season. You're going to combine, especially from all the hospitality and entertainment and betting and all the things we're doing right now, airline stocks and travel that you see are just going through the roof. You're going to start to see this start to go back up, okay? So specifically, you'll start to see this correct and you'll start to see this move up again. So with that being said, we kind of understand what's happening and why it's happening. So what I would say at this point is if you have any dry powder, you want to keep it on the sidelines, find a good stock. One of the things that I look at every day when we look at down, the most important thing that I look at is what stocks moved down the most. And I want to follow kind of what I can buy. And so specifically, I would say right now, a couple that I'm looking at right now that to buy is, so we'll take a look at these. Cinemark, I may buy that. They're kind of my main movie stock, so maybe I'll buy that, maybe I won't. AHT, I already bought more, so I can lower the cost price on that. Hall of Fame one, it's up 44%, so I'm not going to do that. We've done Fubo, Fuel Cell, and Skills for a long time. Maybe Clean Energy, because that's a Biden stock, and we have a 3-point-something trillion dollar infrastructure bill he's trying to get passed, so that might be the beneficiary of that. Plus, it's a meme stock. Norwegian Cruise Lines, that's definitely going to be reflected as a Delta variant stock as we look at it here. And I'd say those are the ones that I'm mainly looking at. 2 day, it's pretty much the same because it was pretty much break even yesterday for most of these stocks. Um, so I would say those are the ones we're looking at. But take advantage of the fact that it's down right now, mainly because of the Delta variant, and go from there. Now, specifically, some moves that I made. I had Soho as a buy. I took that off, not because I don't want to buy Soho, and I might actually consider it because I have it right up here. So I'm going to take a fresh look at that today. But I took it off just because I didn't want it to trigger the buy earlier. AHT, we're sitting here at AHT at 209. I figured it was down at like 190. I figured if it goes to 180, we'll put another buy in and lower our cost basis. So I have that in. And then we put an order of Dogecoin in at 19 cents. And mainly it's just because I'm going to sell the Dogecoin. I'm just sick of it. It's not worth my time. And odds are every time I buy it, it goes down. Every time immediately I sell it, it goes through the roof. So I don't know. Maybe I'll sell half of it and get half the roof. Who knows? But anyway, I put it down so I can lower the cost basis from 25 cents to 21 cents. And I have a sell order in for it at 22. So basically, once it goes over pretty much what I bought it for, we're going to liquidate it, clear up some money, and keep that powder dry. IVR, I was thinking about it. It's a mortgage REIT, and I think there's a lot of upside for it. Specifically, let's take a look at IVR here. Upside of 5.45, but that was based off its February 20th last year. And they had to, and like I was thinking about mortgage REITs, and sometimes when their stock goes down because they're dividend stocks and they want to keep people happy, is they'll sell some of the assets to basically make sure that they don't go bankrupt. And so they probably, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing they probably don't have the same asset level that they did back then. So I'm just not going to mess with them anymore. So once this goes up to 450, which basically gives us a gain on the stock overall, and when I say that, I mean that, or I can take a look at here. We look at IVR here. It is the only stock that I've ever owned that currently shows a net loss on it. So this is the net total gain. It's the only one that's in the red overall. So this one basically selling it at 450 just enables me to make sure that goes back in the black. We're not going to mess with that. And then AINC is this one we just want to free up some money on. AINC got it at 1950. It's sitting here at 2081. I just put a price in there. I don't remember exactly why I picked 23, but I picked 23. If it gets up to that amount, basically it'll be a good day. We'll sell that and free that up. So that frees up about 16 grand that we'll try to buy some more stock and lower our cost basis. So anyway, that's kind of what we're looking at overall. And then lastly, I know I haven't been necessarily the best at this, but we take a look at monthly reports. May we gained 10%, and then June I just finished up and we gained 10% overall. So the last months of the year, January we have a 22% gain, February we have a 19% gain, March we have a 3% gain, April is a 4% gain, and we referenced that a little earlier. May is a 10% gain, June's a 9% gain, and July is going to be the only drop that we see for the year, but we're going to make that up in other months. So again, we talked about betting stocks. We'll go back to sectors here. Oh, we don't want to go up this one. All right, so sectors, we talked about betting stocks right here. These are the ones that are doing really, really good. But I think the sports gambling ones that are part of this, in other words, Century Casinos, Caesars, DraftKings specifically, not every really, maybe Golden, MGM, and Penn National Gaming, we're going to see a big jump in the fall. Biden stocks are going to be linked to infrastructure, so, the infrastructure bill is definitely going to get a lot of these jumping up going forward. These ones, the ones I call the reds, we're just going to liquidate when they go back up, pretty much. Crypto, the same thing. I'm probably going to get out of crypto for the most part. Bitcoin Cash is a small thing that I have, but we'll get rid of crypto as much for the most part. Maybe I'll buy some Bitcoin. Who knows? Oil has been doing really good. It's gotten hammered recently, but I'm telling you, the more Biden puts a war on fossil fuels, the more the price of oil goes up. And specifically UCO, because it's, long story short, it gains value as the differential price quarter over quarter of oil goes up. So And then travel and entertainment, these are the ones we talked about second and third quarter. So when you see earnings season come up, I think you're going to see a lot of these go up pretty massively. So, all right. So last thing, totally unrelated. I just want to close on this. Just pray for the people of Cuba. I've been there a few times. I know people down there. And when I saw people walking through the streets marching, my first thought was, oh my gosh, all of them are going to get arrested or killed or jailed or whatever. That is a crazy country down there. It's not a military dictatorship, so it's not like cops are walking the streets. In fact, or military is walking the streets. You don't see that at all. But it's a total whisper network. So, pretty much on every block, you have a couple government rats on there that will rat you out. So those people are fighting. And having lived in Miami, I got to tell you, I'm super proud of the people down in Miami, my old compatriots down there, is they figured if the people in Cuba are rising up to demonstrate on the streets, which just doesn't happen there at all. People in Miami are like, dude, if you're gonna march in Havana and all these other cities, then we're gonna march with you. So they're marching on freeways, shutting down freeways. They're on 7th Avenue by Cafe Versailles. It's a great Cuban restaurant in Little Havana, and they're just marching with them. And so we'll see what happens. Biden's a spineless tool, so I'm guessing nothing's going to happen, but who knows? But those people, just pray for freedom, for libertad, and, hopefully some good happens there. So with that being said, I will see you hopefully tomorrow. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.